Hi everybody, it's Russ from My Hammers 11. Hope you're all well. Today I'm joined by Mr. Tim Crane, author of They Played With Bobby Moore and They Played With John Lyall. All right, Tim? There we go, by hand.
These are the fellas.
These are the books. And he informed me that he's interviewed every hammer from 58 to 89.
That's correct.
That's impressive. So welcome, Tim. Welcome to the channel. How are you?
Thank you. Very well, thank you. Delighted to be involved.
And I appreciate the backdrop as well. It's nice to see. It's very impressive. I'm very impressed.
A lot of time on my hands to do these things.
Everyone does. So, the premise of the channel is very simple. It's to find out about your favourite West Ham players, maybe your worst West Ham players, whatever. It's open to debate what we want to talk about. We ask everyone who's on the show just a couple of quick questions. The first one is, Tim, what was your earliest West Ham memory?
I lied to my parents that I was going to play Subbuteo at a friend's house and probably went to walk to Poplar, got on the number 15 bus and was at the ground to watch West Ham play Leicester, 1979 this was. We're a second division team at the time, second tier team at the time. And we got 1-1 draw. And Pop Robson scored the first ever goal I scored. And interesting caveat to that for me is that about 3 weeks ago, I acquired a photo of the actual goal, the original press photo goal. So I was quite pleased, quite poignant little thing to have. We've all got our lovely memories of West Ham. So if we can stay close for memorabilia, it's nice to be able to do that.
Exactly. And so that was your first one, but you sort of allude. What's your best memory? It doesn't have to be a game. It could be, meeting your favourite player of all time or whatever, anything that sticks out your mind as your greatest West Ham memory you can think of. It's quite a tricky question.
Well, I've been spoiled really. I work for the ex Hammers magazine.
Yep.
Defunct, but we started in 2002, and the chap who set that up, Tony McDonald, said to me, I want you to interview every West Ham player you can find, and since then it was sort of Christmas Day every day. So I've got a flood of amazing memories. You can imagine every Hammer from 58 to 89, and quite a few since then, but actually every Hammer. I managed to find Tom McAllister, who was a bit of a difficult one for me to find, but recently found him. He was lost in France for 5 years, so it was a bit trickier. But no, I've had a whole clutch of amazing memories. But I suppose you're more impressionable as a young lad. So I would go for the 80-81 season, my favourite season, just seeing Brooklyn, Bonds, Devonshire at their best, fantastic Upton Park, and winning trophies and winning promotion and breaking records. And that was just the thrill ride.
Yeah, and that's and the FA Cup, exploits are still unbeaten today. Last team outside the top tier to win one. So, it's impressive, really impressive time. I was just born then. Sorry to make you feel old, Tim, but I was born in 1981. So yeah. So the idea of the actual show, as I said, going through your Hammers players, there's a few rules we abide by. One is it's got to be a 4-4-2, nice and simple, traditional, no fancy down wing backs or anything like that. The second one is you have to have been alive to see them play. So, me, I can't put in Bobby Moore, but I can put in, I don't know, who we got? Malky Mackay or someone like that. And the last one, it could be anyone. Could be Roger Johnson, bless him. And the last one is that it's your 11. It doesn't have to be the best 11 players. It could be the best players that your favourite players, which aren't necessarily the best players, maybe, or it could be the best foreign players you've seen, or the best, I don't know, the worst players you've seen. It's up to you, really. But the idea is just to find out the players that meant something to you, whether it was good or bad, throughout your sort of illustrious West Ham supporting career, Tim. So what we'll do is we'll start between the sticks. So who have you got as your number one?
Well, I'm a Lyall boy. I broke teeth at West Ham watching John Lyall's team. So there's a bit of a bias towards John Lyall's players. But I've tried to put together, just to give you a general overview, I've tried to put together a nice blend of winners, cup winners, homegrown talent, okay, a little bit of overseas flair as well, but obviously with number one, the greatest goalkeeper ever to play for West Ham. Not the most decorated, that would be Jim Standen, 64, he won a European and an FA Cup trophy. I didn't see him play, sadly, but no, it'd be Phil Parkes. I'm sure that's a popular choice. 114 clean sheets, one in every 3 games almost. You're not going to get that. Just to give you a bit of, a comparison, bit of framework around that. Fabianski's got 13 clean sheets. You know, people rave about him and that. I'm a great believer that you have to put in a stint to really be, remembered high by the fans. People were saying, when Scott Parker left, massive legend and that. But with time, his status has diminished a bit, I would say. Of the Year awards, not too shabby. But number one, Phil Parkes. And he's a lovely man. Lavinia, his wife, just a lovely couple. Always amenable. I'm currently working on a Billy Bonds book in the same genre as the Lyall and Moore books. Everyone who played with Billy. Thanks, Billy. 102 played with you, so it's a bit of a task. But I'm up to 90 because it's like shooting fish in a barrel at the moment because everybody's at home.
Exactly, yeah.
Couldn't get Harry Redknapp off the phone the other day. I had to call him up after dinner as well. Everyone wants to chat about the old days. It's lovely. So, yeah, without a question, a cup winner, promotion winner. Didn't win in the England caps in the West Ham shirt, sadly. And I find that surprising because Green was the manager at the time. I know he had Shilton and Clements, but Greenwood did tend to lean towards those Liverpool players a bit too much, which is why, sadly, Billy didn't get a cap because Emlyn Hughes got 62 caps, which, go figure.
All right, we'll put Parkes in. Yeah, I mean, as you said, he's one of those players who's often, when at half-time we're interviewing players at half-time and stuff like that, and they talk about the 80s and stuff like that. Parkes' name comes up all the time, in terms of being such a nice guy. And that's a trend we've had throughout a lot of these videos when we're talking to people, and Phil's come up. It's not just the player, but the man as well. And he said he probably spent a lot of time with him, talking to him about his time with the various players. So yeah, no, it's a good one. Good shout. We'll put Parkes in. Okay, who we got at the left back then, Tim?
Frank Lampard Senior, cup winner, 2 FA Cups. I know Dix will be a popular choice, but 5 red cards, and obviously a good player. But Frank for me, quite a difficult character to get hold of, but eventually gives you interviews, and he's a proper club legend. It's merged a little by what happened to the Lampard family in general, sadly, and that's affected his legacy. But when I speak to him, he said the older it gets, the more important it seems to become that West Ham experience that he had. And yeah, he was the first left back I saw. A bit short of pace, worked so hard at his game. And when I was seeing him in 1979, he'd already been at the club for 12 years.
Wow.
You know what I mean? He's just a proper legend, over 600. Yeah. And very difficult to consider any others. If you went back, maybe you could look at Jack Burkett or, a player like that. But no, Frank Lampard for my number is mine.
Okay. So that's on the left. Then we're going to have on right back. We'll go right back next.
Yeah, well, quite, we've had some great right backs down the years. John Bond has been good. John McDowell, he was the bright young thing that everyone was talking about. He didn't quite fulfil his potential. But I can't look beyond Ray Stewart because you need the penalty taker. Scottish international, loves the club even now. He'll travel down from Scotland for reunions and evenings, and just scored that most amazing penalty against Aston Villa in the 6th round of the FA Cup. One of the greats at Upton Park. Just a young kid with all that pressure on his shoulders, and then the equaliser in the League Cup final, another penalty at Wembley, last minute. I mean, he actually missed 10 penalties. He followed up on a few of them, but people quite a high figure, but he didn't miss any important ones. So Ray Stewart, number 2.
Nice. Okie dokie. That's a strong pair of fullbacks we got there. And who you got in your as your 2 centre backs, your colossals in defence?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to put Billy in defence. I'm putting Billy in midfield. I think he's too big, a giant of a player to leave in defence. So I'm going to go with one of my centre halves will be Alvin Martin. Came down from Bootle. He'd had trials at Everton and QPR, somewhere else in London anyway. Didn't quite work out. We ran our eye over him. John Lyall ran his eye over him and saw something. And he'd been playing as a striker, but played him in defence. Never let us down. We were very blessed at West Ham. We had Billy Bonds and Alvin Martin as our 3 club captains. I mean, just phenomenal, really, that we had, you know, such continuity of class captaincy to guide us through some amazing memories, thrill rides, which we don't have anymore. So and Alvin, he's a lovely guy to. He's always got a bit of time for people. Obviously loves the club and got his England caps. Definitely scored the equaliser. Well, put that header in for Ray Stewart to get the penalty in the '81 League Cup final. Obviously FA Cup winner as well. Yeah. So he'd be my one of my centre halves.
Sounds lovely. Okay, so we've got Alvin. Who's the other one? Who's partnering him in that centre?
I didn't see Bobby play, so I can't use Bobby.
Yeah, fair enough.
I've gone with one. It breaks my heart to put him in, really, but Rio Ferdinand. I mean, I don't know how many caps he ended up for. 80 caps for England?
Something like that, yeah.
Won amazing trophies at Manchester United. We sold him to Leeds, of course, but it made his name and memories at Manchester United. Heartbreaking, because West Ham fans should have had another era with Harry Redknapp at the helm. We had those 6 guys, you know, Defoe, Cole, Lampard, Carrick, Ferdinand, and one other. Glenn Johnson. And it's heartbreaking that we didn't have that era. We had the Moore, Hurst, Peters. We had the Brooklyn, Bonds, Lampard. Got put in Devonshire there. And we should have had another era. You put the Canny around those kids. You know, we probably have had David James in goal, something like that. Trevor Sinclair. You know, it could have been such a joyride, but we were denied. But I can hear Harry now. Rolls Royce, Rio. I used to work for the Overland and Sea magazine. Gary Firmager. Thank you, Gary. He gave me my first opportunity writing about West Ham. We used to go and watch and at the end of the season, you'd interview Harry. That was your bonus, really.
Yeah.
And Harry, as he is now, you know, so amenable. So he gets such a bad press. Sadly, went to manage Spurs. He did a lot of the no-nos, you know, allowed to do in the West Ham community. But yeah, he used to go on about Rolls Royce Rio, and he was wonderful, purring away in our defence there. And sadly, we didn't see it come to fruition. But alongside the experience of Alvin Martin, it could be quite formidable and impenetrable with high balls, central defensive pairing.
Yeah, strong, really strong back 4, and Parksy as well, back 5. I like that. Yeah. Okay, right, Tim. What we're going to do in midfield? Let's go left wing first.
Well, Alan Devonshire.
Yeah. Can
only be Dev, one of the greatest players I ever saw over there. I mean, I was a young kid, and just to see him gliding by those he obviously cropped his knee against Wigan in '84, I think. But prior to that, the 80-81 season when he was sublime, and everyone remembers the FA Cup semi-final goal against Everton. Frank scored the winner. That's another reason. The memory Frank gave me from that wonderful goal against Everton, the winner, FA Cup winners, 80 semi-final. But he also scored some other amazing goals. He didn't score enough goals. Patsy Holland always says that. About Alan Devonshire, that he didn't score enough goals. He scored that amazing goal at Chelsea in the 4-0 victory. He scored one up at Newcastle. And I don't know if you've ever seen the goal he scored at Wrexham, where he runs the full length of the field. It's just mesmerising. So I like my teams to have 2 wingers.
Yeah.
I like an attacking format. And one of the biggest joys for me watching football is seeing a winger take on a defender and get to the byline and put the crossing. That for me is great. And you got that with Devo. It was like just the look at their feet and he'd be off gliding by them. We saw him do it in the 80 Cup final, to put the cross in. Eventually Brookings scored. And we saw it in the semi-final against Everton when he scored that wonder goal. But he was in that, most games. It was just a joy, that moment of a winger taking on a defender. I think he's second only to that one-on-one with a striker and a goal.
He thinks, yeah, I know what you mean.
That really thrills me. We don't get it so much nowadays. No. Isn't good to anyone, so it's not. It happens less and less frequently.
And he only cost us, was it $5,000, wasn't it? $5,000 we paid for him.
$5,000 from Southall. Yeah, he was there part time, wasn't he? Was he a forklift driver?
Something like that. Yeah, that's not a bad fight. What can you get for $5,000 this time? Not that, that's for sure. Okay, right. I'll put Dev on the left, and then who's going to be complimenting him on the right then? Tim.
This was my most difficult position. I really wanted to put Patsy Holland in because I love Patsy and he's a popular boy like me. And I love chatting with him at all the events. He's West Ham through and through. But for the purposes of this, I started watching West Ham in '79. Patsy had been there since the late '60s, so he was just tipping. He passed his tipping point really best. So I'm going to park him on the bench. Sadly, sorry, Patsy. Cup winner, of course, and just he scored one of the last hammers to score in a European Cup final against Anderlecht. So you can't overlook these things. Great player. But I thought, then I looked at Sinclair because I really like Trevor Sinclair. I thought, in his prime, when he was trim, he did some electrifying things down that right wing, and he could score some goals, put in some good crosses, and I thought he could be it. But I'm going to go with Joe Cole because I used to watch football. I used to watch the Hammers from the main stand, and everyone around me, there was just this frisson of excitement when he got the ball. And it was this electric moment. Joe's on the ball. What's Joe's doing? He had his own little culture. The fans loved him. Harry Redknapp said he was just going to blow West Ham fans away when we used to have these meetings. They haven't seen anything like him and that. And we've had some good right wingers. Peter Braybrook was a fantastic right winger in our past. I didn't see him, sadly. Harry, good, competent right winger. But I'm going to go with Joe. Unfulfilled promise, but I just like the idea of Dev on the left, Joe on the right, those wingers, and causing problems.
It's tricky. I like that. That's good. And then, so we've got a nice two wingers. Who are we going to have in the middle then, Tim? Who's going to be your two centre mids?
Brooking and Bonds.
Brooking and Bonds, okay.
No, Brooking and Bonds. Brooking and Bonds. Brooking for the flair, put a ball on any blade of grass in the state, on the bowling, wherever he was. He'd just put that ball wherever he wanted. Just a magician. Watched him all those years. Still don't know if he's left-footed or right-footed. Just on each. And along two FA Cups, headed goal, just an immortal. He's writing the foreword for the Billy Bonds book along with Pop Robson.
Wow.
I asked, who do you want to write the foreword for your book? Because he was very friendly with, he was roomed and played cards forever with Trevor, but he was very good with Pop Robson as well. And he said, get them both. So Pop's writing the foreword and Trevor's writing his foreword. So he's very good, Trevor. He's always got time and helpful. So just wonderful, a wonderful player. Just in control and just so creative. Never backwards and sideways. Always looking for the wingers. Always looking to put the right ball through the middle. And got his fair share of goals as well. Good goals, good quality goals. He could put the ball wherever he wanted, which is a nice skill to have. Yeah. He was hopeless at tackling. Wasn't his cup of tea, wasn't that type of player. So you need someone in there, tackling, hard as nails. Billy Bonds, box to box tracking. We've never had anybody like it. I know nowadays they introduce this thing where they measure the distance a player in the game, and Beckham's right up there. Beckham could do like double figure mileage. He could do 10 miles in a game, 12 miles in a game. I would love someone to put a clock on Billy and his. when he was just doing that box-to-box tracking. I've watched so many games where he'd lose the ball, you know, or the ball would be lost, not just him, but we'd lose a ball occasionally up, you know, in attack. And then he's back defending as well. He just used to do it all the time. He would chase for... I've interviewed so many people for this book, and things that are coming out of it are things like, it was like having 12 players on the pitch. It was just a phenomenon. I don't think people absolutely adore him. He's a fan favourite. But even that's not enough. Even that's enough. We need a Billy Bonds statue or some. I know they've done the stand, which there. It's a great thing to show recognition, and that was the way to do it. But we need something else for Billy, because he was an absolute giant, captain of this side, obviously, and straight into that midfield where he can do most damage, where he can cover most ground, because his fitness levels in training, he was 100% in training and on the pitch, and nobody could get close to him in those cross-country runs pre-training around Epping Forest, Hainault Forest, or wherever they used to do it. He would be head and shoulders above the rest. And if you've got, I was looking at some old footage of from the 70s recently. Just watching Bill is just phenomenal. It's so entertaining. You can get your hands on some 1970s West Ham when Billy is tanned and as sleek and as powerful and dominant and buccaneering and swashbuckling and all these adjectives that they come out. He's all of those and more. Just do yourself a favour and treat yourself.
Well, I know that Robert Banks he's been digitalising all the season reviews, and I think it might be mid 80s up until I think 2013 at the moment, and it's like sort of the Netflix type for West Ham fans. You know, you've done Tiger King and whatever. You can start, and that's you get this newfound appreciation. When you said, when you're looking back through old footage, you get a new appreciation for players you might not have appreciated at the time, or maybe the other way around. You thought this guy was brilliant, you know, because you were only 10 at the time, and actually he wasn't that good, and this guy was really good, and you know. But I think it's a great shout. That is a proper midfield, isn't it? Though you've covered it all. You got your flair, you got your pace, you've got your skill, you've got your sort of your tackling. As you said, sort of the sort of the guy at the back of Bonzi is just going to be sort of tracking all over the place. It's a really strong back. Right, okay, I like that midfield. Right, so who are we going to go for as your two strikers? Who are we going to go?
Well, I found it really difficult because the two strikers I've chosen are not the tallest strikers in the world, and I've got two nippy wingers putting in these crosses. And I know that the thing that made me stick with it was our greatest league season, 85-86, as you know. We had Cotty and McAvenny, not the tallest, although McAvenny's 5'10", apparently. He never looked 5'10" to me, but Cotty's 5'7". They didn't look, they weren't, you know, they weren't Niall Quinn, you know, and Kevin Phillips. It wasn't like that. They looked quite, you know, short to me. And it worked. And we haven't had a 20-goal a season striker in the top flight since Tony Cotty. I think Marlon did it in the second tier, but that's a long time now. I think he did the 86, 87. That's a long time for a club like West Ham United not to produce a 20-goal a season player. There's something not right. There's just something not right that we can't do that. So Cotty is obviously one of my strikers. Forest Gate boy, loved West Ham, scored on his debut, part of the best ever league team. Should have had better cup runs. Sheffield Wednesday final still grates with me. Should have won that and gone on, but no. But just an all-round nice guy. You know, always got time to chat about whatever it is I'm working on. And quick as you like, exciting, and you just felt like every game you went into, we were going to score a goal. We were going to get goals every game. I mean, I watch West Ham nowadays, and I just, people talk about we'll play Liverpool, and they say, well, they talk in terms of, well, we don't want to concede too many because it might affect our difference at the end of the season. That to me, that's anathema. That is not the West Ham way of thinking. I grew up, it was like, get out there, give them a game, run at them. They may be top of the table and better than us, but on our day, we could beat anybody, and did, and caused many upset. Nowadays, we just seem to be resigned to playing one up front, sideways, backwards football. It's I find it a little bit discouraging but hopefully that will change. But certainly Cottee up front. And alongside him, and this is Tony Cottee's hero himself, when he grew up, he used to love this guy because he was such an instinctive striker. And he worked hard at his game, and he had 2 spells at the club. And I saw him in the second spell. He scored my first goal I ever scored at West Ham. He's a lovely, lovely guy. He lives up in the northeast. I call him up. We just talk about West Ham, and he's so well informed. And it's Brian Pop Robson, but he's 5'8". but so we're not going to get many headed goals. No. I'm starting with that team, and I've got. I don't know if did we talk about subs at all?
Well, you can talk about subs, Tim, if you want. Go on, it's all interesting.
So on the bench, I've put Freddie Canute, who, in terms of new signings, he gave me most enjoyment when he came on. When he made his debut, he was faster than any West Ham player I'd seen for a long, long time, and he scored quite a few goals for us. And he looked quick, and he was good in the air, and obviously what he went on to do was Seville. I mean, he won the Europa League twice, Europa Super Cup, the Spanish FA Cup. I mean, he had a proper, decorated career after West Ham. So probably not a common choice. I don't dislike Canute, but all right, he went to Spurs. But yeah, there is that. But he excited me. I would have him, and he'd bring the height. And I'd also have David Cross on the bench to bring a bit of height. And in midfield, I'd have Di Canio on the bench to bring a little bit of flair if we needed it, a bit more flair. If Trevor was flagging, then I'd put Di Canio on for him. And I'd have Ludo as a backup for Parks. And to cover all the defensive positions, a player who gave me a lot of joy, and he only played 50-odd games, was Slaven Bilic. Good tackler, great on the ball, find anybody, run forever. I really liked him. In terms of my subs, I thought he could fill in along the back anywhere there.
Easily. That's strong. Nice team, Tim. Really nice team. So just go. We've got Parks in goal. We've got Lampard Senior at left back. We've got Rio and Alvin in the middles. Ray on the right. And then midfield, we got Dev on the left, Bonds and Brookin, BB in the middle, Joey on the right, and then we've got Pop and Cottee up front. And then I'll allow the subs. We've got Ludo, we've got Freddie, we've got Cross, we've got Di Canio and Bilic on the bench. It could do a job. I think could still do a job. Definitely at defence.
Plus over 700 goals in that team.
That's incredible. And probably and how many FA Cup winners, Tim, and how many Hammer of the Year winners, and yes, quite a few.
Well, we've only got 30 in the club's history for your fans. We've only got 30 FA Cup winners, not 33, because Bonds, Brookin, and Lampard won it twice.
Twice, yeah.
64, 75, and 80. We've got 30 FA Cup winners. They're like our crown jewels. And one of them, Tommy Taylor, is marooned in India at the moment. He's a coach. He coaches all around the world. He had a spell in Finland, but he was coaching in India, and he's hoping to come back at the end of this month, May. But he's in lockdown with 1.3 billion Indians. So I'm in email contact with him. I like to keep an eye on those 30. And we lost Graham Padden, of course, sadly. So there are a couple. We've lost Bobby Moore, we've lost Johnny Byrne, we've lost Peter Braybrook, we've lost Johnny Bond. So we've lost a few, but we've got 20 odd prime West Ham Cup winners who we should cherish and enjoy. And look after and get them back to the club whenever they want. Give them season tickets for them and their families. Treat them like gods, because they are the very pinnacle of our history.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks very much, Tim. It's been really interesting. A lot of names that obviously others, but some which, obviously I wasn't privy to seeing these players play. So it's really interesting to hear you speak so candidly and sort of with so much enthusiasm about some of those players. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this will be appreciative as well. So thank you, Tim. It's really been really fun. And thank you to everyone else. Thanks everyone else for listening and watching, and like, subscribe. You can Tim's Twitter handle is xhammersmag, innit? xhammersmag.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, I believe so. And we'll put a link in the description anyway to follow him as well. And yeah, please stay tuned for other guests you've got coming on. Thank you very much.